This thing about political labels is interesting because, the framers of our Constitution, they kind of designed a Constitution that they thought would not lead to political parties, but of course it's in human nature. People get into different political parties, and I appreciate everybody who's saying we've got to look past the political parties, and that's what a town hall meeting is all about. It's bringing everybody together. Democrats and Republicans and independents and people across party lines. I'm a middle child. I like to bring people together across party lines, And when I was a state senator, I introduced more than 150 bills that were passed on a bipartisan basis, and I was always very proud of that. I had a colleague a Republican who left, and we were good friends, and I went to his goodbye party, and on the way out I said, Raskin, you're not a bad guy. The problem with you is you're a liberal. And I said, you're right, I'm a liberal. The heart of that word is liberty. And I'm also a progressive, because the heart of that word is progress. But my favorite thing to call myself today is a conservative, because I want to conserve the land, the air, the water, the time. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, from whatever perspective who wants to tear that down, I'm going to oppose them, and I'm going to defend and conserve the great things that prior generations of Americans have built for us, and for our children, and for our grandchildren. I'll leave you with the words of some great democracy patriots. And come to think of it, one of them was a Republican, and one of them was a Democrat Republican, and one of them was a Federalist, okay? So it's not about party. But I'll start with the great Thomas Jefferson. And in 1798, it was a very tough time, not unlike today in a lot of ways. And somebody wrote him a letter despairing of the social and political condition of the country. And, saying people were being rounded up, people were being falsely arrested. And he said he didn't know whether he could stay involved anymore. And Jefferson wrote him this beautiful letter back. You can find it online. It's Jefferson's letter to John Taylor. And he said, "A little patience, and the reign of witches shall pass over. Their spells dissolve, and the people recovering their true sight restore their government to its true principles. In the meantime, we are suffering all the horrors and malignities of the moment. But if the game runs against us sometimes, as it inevitably will, we must be patient, because this is a game where principles are at stake." The great Thomas Jefferson. The words of a great Marylander, Frederick Douglass, who was born into slavery at the Wye River Plantation, about a half an hour away from where I live, and he escaped from slavery to become our great freedom fighter through the Civil War and through Reconstruction. And Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the struggle may be moral, it may be physical, it may be moral and physical, but there must be struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. A message to you from the people of Maryland. And finally, I'll leave you with the words of the great Tom Paine, who my son Tommy was named after. And Tom Paine, he got to this land in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution. He fell in love with the promise of America. He said, if this land lives up to its ideals and its principles, it will become an asylum to humanity, he said. Not an insane asylum, mind you, but a place of refuge for people seeking freedom from religious and political and intellectual repression from all over the world. And he wrote the greatest pamphlet of our history, Common Sense, saying that we all have 5 senses and a 6th sense when we are willing to reason together to arrive at the right solution. And George Washington had the troops at Valley Forge reading Common Sense by campfire light during some very difficult days. And it was a tough year, 1776. And the country was split down the middle, and half the people were saying, you can't beat the kings and the queens and the monarchs and the autocrats. That's how people have always lived. And then half of the country was saying, no, let's gamble on something different. Let's pledge to ourselves our sacred honor, our lives, our property, in the hopes of building government on a different principle of self-government democracy for everyone, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everyone, everybody being created equal. And anyway, Paine wanted to write a pamphlet to give people hope during a very dark time. And so he wrote this beautiful pamphlet called The American Crisis. And I just want to update the words a little bit for you, pursuant to strict instructions from Nancy Pelosi, who said Tom Paine was a feminist, and that he was, and he would not disapprove. But Paine wrote these words. He said, "These are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country. But everyone that stands with us now will win the love and the favor and the affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Let's make that victory ours, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Ken Martin.